He's getting graveyard smashed!
Hello my friends, and welcome back to Player Display. This time around we are going to be looking at a brand new line for this channel, being NECA's Universal Monsters. And we are going to be starting off with the biggest and baddest one of them all, Frankenstein. And before you nerds start yelling at me, I know this is not Frankenstein. This happens to be Frankenstein's monster, but I think of him personally as Frankenstein Jr., so we're just going to call him Frankenstein, okay? Okay. Now this is the very first figure that I ever collected from NECA's Universal Monsters line, and the reason why I was so reluctant is because, firstly, I haven't actually seen all of the movies. Of course, there's like a billion of them, because for each important first installment of a franchise, it's spilled into a whole bunch of other movies and sequels and whatever. And then the second thing was that I knew if I got one of them, then I'd have to get the rest. So I decided one day, let's just try out a Universal Monster, watch some of the movies, because I think the only one I saw at that point was Frankenstein, and that was it. And then after I got this figure, I absolutely took off. I watched all of them. Well, the main ones, not the sequels yet. Except Bride of Frankenstein, speaking of whom I actually have on pre-order, so you could expect her on this channel in 6 months. I don't know how long they take these days. I'm also still waiting on Bela Lugosi's Dracula in pre-order, and I am also currently expecting the Invisible Man, who's my personal favorite Universal monster, and he is shipping to my apartment as we speak, so we should be able to look at him very soon. So here's what you can expect from the front of the box. You pretty much have that original promo poster from when the movie was first released, and looking down here at the Wolfman, which we'll also be having a look at, interesting how directors at the time like to have the big monster's face over a passed out woman's body for some reason. Someone was definitely compensating for something. But at least the mummy was more respectful. This time the woman is conscious. Let's have a look at the very first zombie we've ever seen in cinema. You got a very, very tall figure, even by NECA's 7-inch standard, and that's because, well, we have not only Boris Karloff, but we also have him with very, very big shoes, so he is quite massive and colossal, and appropriately so. This is the head sculpt that made me decide that perhaps Hasbro is no longer the king of getting actor likenesses onto plastic. Here we have Boris Karloff, and it is an absolute dead ringer. They did such a good job. I really like how the paint job isn't just a flat green. They got some really nice dead flesh tones. Of course, there's no color in the film, but when you think of Frankenstein, this is pretty much what you envision. Getting a little closer, this is one of 3 head sculpts that we have, and you could see that this is more of the placid kind of, I'm just waking up from a very long nap, what the hell is going on face. And you can definitely see that made out with the eyes, and then also the very neutral looking expression. This is pretty much how he first looked when we first saw him in the film. But yeah, every detail we have here is absolutely spot on, not a single thing to complain about. Very screen accurate, down to this little scar that he has on his forehead, and even this silver bolt or something that I have never even noticed until I saw the figure. And then I watched the movie again, and I'm like, yeah, it's there, it's really good. And then going around to the back, you get more continuation of that hair. You got a very flat head on top, and then down here you got those very trademark bolts on the neck, which are also sculpted and painted very well, not too sloppy or anything, just looking very good. And I also like how the skin also has not too glossy of a sheen, but it just hits that sweet spot where it's not totally dull, but just shiny enough to suggest that he is an undead being and not just a piece of plastic. Going down is where I start to wonder, where did Victor Frankenstein find the clothes necessary to accommodate for this really giant abomination that we have here? All jokes aside, this clothing is really nice. It's sort of a standard suit, I suppose, and they could have just molded it in black or painted it in black, thrown it in the box, and called it a day, but there's such subtle details and nuances here that need attention. Like if you go right here, you get a really good look at this wrinkle in the clothing, but you can see they did a little bit of dry brushing to accent it, to help it pop out a little bit more. And as you can see, as I'm rotating the figure, the light kind of shines to bring it out even more than that. And you know, down here on the button, you got a little bit of gloss, so it pops out a bit. It's just all the accent work done on this clothing is so well done, and I really love what they did here. And they gave us an S-tier figure right here. I'm saying that right now, even before the video ends. You got those very nicely sculpted wrinkles continuing onto the sleeves with more of that gray wash to bring out the wrinkles, and then same goes on the back, and I really love how it kind of bunches up around here to sort of give that sensation of the clothing being a little bit worn out, being a little bit stretched, and it just really adds to the story that this figure tells. Going down in the sleeves, of course, you get his hands, and you'd think, oh, they're just going to slap on some more hands, but they surprise us even more with these really nice wrist sculpts. And you can see that, again, more details that you probably wouldn't have noticed on your first pass of the movie. They have these really nice metal or steel or wire details kind of binding him around, and these little bloodied up scars, which look really good. That's another thing to appreciate about these Universal figures and NECA as a brand. What NECA is so good at is they make very accurate figures for IPs that you probably wouldn't see from any other toy line. Yeah, we've seen probably hundreds of different interpretations of Frankenstein in toy form, but I think NECA would be the only brand that would go ahead and give him some blood right there. That might not seem like a whole lot, but when you consider that this is a character who came from an era where blood was pretty much not allowed on celluloid, that is really special. I'm so happy to see that. And then going down, you have two of his hand options, because there are many, many more hands, as there should be for a NECA Ultimate release. But then you get a continuation of that nice glossy coat and that really nice muddy green color scheme going on, and it just looks really fantastic. Very decayed, very decrepit, very kind of just dangling down. I actually kind of feel like that now. I've had a long day. A lot of typing on keyboards. I kind of feel Frankenstein's pain right now. Down in the pants, again, I can't compliment their sculpt work enough when it comes to what could have otherwise just been soft goods or really boring flat plastic. You got nice texturing, very well sculpted wrinkles, a little bit of that dry brush, and it just really brings this guy to life. Ironic for a character that is basically supposed to be dead. And then down in the shoes, as I've kind of discussed before, really cool looking. I like them a lot. If you look very closely, you can kind of make out the stitch work. You can also see a groove that indicates a sole right there. It's also a tad glossier than the rest of the clothing to help it stand out a little bit more. And I also really like how they're kind of platformers. They raise him up a little bit to make Boris Karloff a little bit more intimidating than he already was. Moving on to articulation, which I almost forgot to do, but you'll never be the wiser because I'll just edit the videos so that way it seems as though I did this at the right time as I was filming all these little clips.
No denied.
All the heads articulate the same when they're on the dumbbell joint there. They go very much forward, very much back, very much to the side, very much to that side, and he can do an exorcist all around. And there's also a ball joint going on at the bottom of the neck. Over here, we've got the usual hinge out and in shoulders that swivel all the way around the world. Got single hinge, elbow with a swivel. All of the wrists hinge out and in. There's no swivel in the wrists at all, but the hands, they pretty much give you everything that you need. In the torso, it's a little hard to see because it's covered by this very nice overcoat. There is a swivel, though. In fact, is it a ball joint? I think it's actually a ball joint. He does a little bit. Actually, that's pretty good forward there. And then you tilt that head up, and then, yeah, you could just be looking on, trying to see through the blinds in his window. Can't do much back because it kind of gets a little traffic coned by the garments, but that's not a big deal. You could swivel around as you like. Legs kick out. They kick back. You can go this way, shake it all about. Single joint at the knees, a little bit of swivel there. Ankles don't do a whole ton because of how blocky the shoes are, which I'm totally fine with. Really, nothing much going back, nothing much going forward, but you do have some rocker, so if he needs to be running around flailing, escaping some angry villagers, and you could probably pull that off no problem. And yeah, dudes, that's a base figure. It's just a very simple and classic design where there's not a whole ton that needs to be said about it, but everything that you want to see on a basic Frankenstein is here. And then if you want more, then they've got their accessories to pad him up a little bit. So I went ahead and I took off Frankenstein's head and hands, so that way we could look at all the accessories together, and now bringing down my fancy pants tripod, we could see everything that he comes with. He has 3 head sculpts, 3 pairs of hands, making 6 hands total, 3 flowers with 2 clustered together, and also some shackles for his wrists. So let's look at all these one by one. We have this first head sculpt that we just looked at, which is kind of a stoned out look, you know, kind of that, you got that good kush, bro? Then we have this second really fun head sculpt at the lake, swimming with children and then drowning the children. That was a sad movie, man. And then lastly, we had this very scene-specific face where he kind of busted into this woman's bedroom, and then this was kind of his flirty face, more or less. I haven't even put this head on the body yet just because it is such a unique case, but I think once we get Bride of Frankenstein, I might be using this head a little bit more often. Then over here we have this really nice pair of shackles with a really good chain. I don't believe it's metal. It could be. It's hard to tell. Got a nice gray with a good silver brush to them, and they look really fantastic. I like this piece a lot. They also have two, well, technically 3 flowers. You have one here, then you got 2 over here. Hopefully they float in the water, unlike a certain child did. And then looking at the hands, I think when I first showed him off in this video, he was displayed with these 2 standard open, relaxed hands. Then you have these more open, kind of reaching out hands if he's trying to grab somebody or throw him in the ocean. And then you have 2 pretty useful gripping hands, which aren't definitively meant for one thing or another. I mean, this one's definitely geared so you can hold the flowers. And then this one here, I guess these could also be flower holding hands too. This could also be, I guess, pointing out, maybe if he's curious about something like brains or whatever it is that Frankenstein eats. We'll go ahead and take a pair of the hands so we can test out the shackles, which is very easy to do. Thankfully, the wrists are nice and small, so all you have to do is take a shackle, loop it around one, choose your favorite right hand, plug that on. Obviously, the shackles are a little too small just to slide right over the hand, so you gotta remove the hands first. Just pull the other shackle to the other wrist, like so, then pop on the left hand right here. And this is usually how I tend to display him on my shelf, kind of looking as he did when he first showed up in a very dramatic fashion in the movie. Now let's go ahead and get him into playtime mode. So for that, we're going to go ahead and pull out his big old happy face right there, and swapping out the heads couldn't be easier. Slot that off, and then pop another one on. Really easy. They all go on just as no problem. Yeah, that's how I talk. And switching out the wrists is also no problem, as you could probably suspect, so let's go ahead and remove the shackles as we do that. And here's Frankenstein once again having a grand old time now with his 2 gripping hands. And we're going to go ahead and put these flowers in between his fingers. So this is the main flower holding hand, and you kind of just take the stem and slide it in between, or you don't even need to do that. You could just kind of just rest the flower right in between the fingers like that. That's pretty much what it looks like in the movie. And of course the flowers can be switched between the 2 hands. So now you can have Frankenstein by the lake, enjoying the nature, the flora, and the fauna. And he's good! Then here he is with this really goofy-ass flirty face with the open hands now. Oh man, the more I look at this, the more hilarious I find it. I'm going to put this down before I start getting in a little laughing fit. It's just too good. And to start off our size comparisons, here we have our absolutely hammered Frankenstein, besides the Mummy and the Werewolf, also from NECA's Universal Monsters line. And these guys look very similar when you hold them side by side. It's almost as if they were portrayed by the same actor. I wonder if that holds any water. And to compare them beside a few other lines and scales, we first have Hasbro's Star Wars The Black Series Bad Batch Imperial Crosshair. Yes, I got the name right. Awesome! But obviously he doesn't size up too well, but he does size up very well with the 7-inch scale McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. In this case, we have the Death in the Family Joker.
And here's Goofy old Uncle Frankenstein giving Muck Muck a piggyback ride.
And that's just about a wrap on NECA's Ultimate Frankenstein. I should have saved that "that's a wrap" for the Mummy. God damn it! He's pretty much going to be a precursor to all the many other Universal monsters that we'll be getting. Of course, I'm going to review the Mummy and the Werewolf as well. I think I have all of them, excluding the black and white variants. But honestly, I'm indifferent between colored and black and white. It's simply a matter of the colored ones being more easy to obtain, and I also just want to maintain consistency within my Universal Monsters collection. All that rambling aside, this is a figure that tells me and should tell you that NECA right now is at its absolute peak. This figure is perfect. Objectively, there is no issue with it whatsoever. The accessories are fantastic. The articulation is exactly what you want. The likeness to Boris Karloff is a dead ringer, absolutely accurate. The paint application, no slop at all. And in a place with the clothing, as I mentioned, where they could have totally just slacked off, they went to infinity and beyond. They got the dry brush, they got the wrinkles, they got the right sheen. Everything about this figure is perfect. I've never seen a figure more perfect than this. It's just right. And not only that, but it's so good that it brought me into the Universal Monsters line and it made me want to get more of them. And so far, I haven't had a single disappointment. They're doing such a great job with this line. So that's about it for this review. I adore this guy, and I hope you get a hold of him. He's pretty accessible. I mean, he was a standard release. I think I found him where I find a lot of my NECA figures, like in the back of a Target. So if you want a Frankenstein, go out and get him. He's a fantastic figure. Actually, I'd go as far as saying that he is objectively, mechanically, and aesthetically the best figure we've looked at so far on this channel. So if you enjoyed this video and all the content, then please be sure to
Like
comment
and subscribe.
or I shall inject a dose of hallucinogen so you may see our point of view. Oh, surely I can do better than that. Let me go get another dosage. And thank you guys so much for roughly a month of this channel. I'm really happy with how it's developing, and I hope to continue to see it watch it grow. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much more once again, and I will see you all later. Really, the only classic movie monster I say should always be in black and white, no matter in what interpretation, is Nosferatu, who may be my favorite, but he might be neck and neck with the Invisible Man. Neck and neck, and I just mentioned a vampire character. I'm stupid anyways. And speaking of Nosferatu, here's another size comparison with our version of Count Orlok from Mego besides Frankenstein, and while I got a little time because this is a shorter review, I do want to say I am very much looking forward to the next Nosferatu movie coming out that's starring Bill Skarsgård and also Willem Dafoe, who previously portrayed the vampire himself. So that's going to be really cool. I hope it's well done. And isn't there also a villain/hero within the DC Comics called Frankenstein? Gotta remind me of that, or I'll just Google it myself and educate myself.